This is a little quick talk about question 35, and question 35 is about corrosion protection systems. The big idea for corrosion protection is that if you want to stop corrosion, you've got to ask what causes corrosion in the first place, and if you can stop those things that cause corrosion, then you can stop the rusting process. And the things that you need for corrosion to occur, or particularly rusting to occur, is you need a reactive metal to be oxidized. And for example, we're talking about rusting, that means we're talking about iron or steel as being the reactive metal to be oxidized. You need that reactive metal to be in contact with an oxidant, which is usually, in the case of rusting or corrosion, is most of the time going to be oxygen. And lastly, you need an electrolyte in contact with the metal. So if you can stop those three things, or any one of those three things, you can stop corrosion or you can stop rusting. And which one you use, which strategy you use to stop corrosion, depends on the application you're using. Different applications and different conditions require different approaches to stop corrosion. And the three main ways which we can try and stop corrosion are, first of all, use replacement materials. If we know steel is going to rust, we can use a different metal or a different material that's not going to rust or not going to corrode. And that's the first strategy for stopping corrosion, and that's got some advantages, but it's also got some significant disadvantages too in certain conditions, and you need to talk about those. The next strategy to stop corrosion is barriers, and so you should need to talk about, in general, how does a barrier work? A barrier works by blocking the electrolyte and or oxidant from touching the steel. And there's a whole range of barriers, and you've got to talk about these ones in particular and their advantages and disadvantages. First of all, there's just painting the steel, and you also got to talk about some modern paints in particular. One that's mentioned in the textbook is something called Rustmaster Pro. You've got to talk about noble metal coatings, and noble metal coatings mean metals that aren't very reactive. For example, chromium. You might coat the steel, for example, in chromium to stop the corrosion, and that does work, but it's got some fairly significant disadvantages too you should talk about. There's a strategy called passivating the iron, where you actually paint a certain acid onto the iron to make the surface protected from corrosion. You can do something called surface alloying, and this is actually mentioned in the syllabus. It's something you do need to know about. What is surface alloying? How does it work? What's good about it and what's not so good about it? And the last type of barrier you need to talk about is something called galvanizing. And I've got two positives here, because galvanizing provides two types of protection. Galvanizing is a barrier coating. It protects the surface of the steel, but it's also this next category of protection called cathodic protection. So you need to detail what does it mean to be cathodic protection, why is it called cathodic protection, and how does galvanizing work as far as cathodic protection is concerned, but also what is a sacrificial anode, another type of cathodic protection, and also what is applied voltage or impressed current. What does that mean as far as cathodic protection is concerned? And once again, just like everything else, for these examples, what's good about it, what's its advantages, what's its disadvantages, where can you use it, and where can't you use it.